Hi everyone, this is Emily Leiphart here for Tailored Expressions, and in today's video I'm sharing projects using the products included in the original Happy Hex monogram card kit. These items are now available for purchase individually. I shared a video with the original kit release, so now I'm back to share more ideas for the individual items. Let's take a look at the products I'll be using in this video. The first one is the Happy Hex Mini Slim background. It's a rubber cling background sized to cover the mini slim card size. It includes a large hexagon a third of the way from either the top or bottom, depending on which direction you choose, and you can add a frame plus a sentiment or monogram in it. Next is the Happy Hex Mini Slim Stencil. It's made to coordinate with the background so you can ink blend different colors in those smaller hexagons on the background. You can, of course, leave them unfilled and do something else, which brings me to the next product, the Happy Hex Add-Ons stamp set. This gives you all the sentiments for the larger hexagon, as well as patterns and icons for the smaller hexagons. You can do a combination of ink blending and stamping, choose one or none at all. Finally, we also have the Happy Hex Dies, which coordinate with the stamped patterns in the stamp set. My color scheme for this video includes Gumball, Blueberry, Blue Corn, Sugar Cube, and Gold. I'll be using both the inks and coordinating cardstock in these colors. The gold elements will be included by using gold glitter cardstock and heat embossing. I'll be making 3 cards in the mini slimline size, and the first 2 will use a top folding mini slim card base in Sugar Cube. I place it in my original Misty stamping tool and remove the foam mat since the Happy Hex mini slim background is a rubber cling stamp and requires the depth taken up by the foam mat when using clear stamps. As I mentioned in my original video for the Happy Hex kit, I offset the card base from the edges since the background stamp doesn't extend to the edges. I hold the card base in place with rolled up washi tape and use a powder tool over the entire card base before inking it up with Versamark watermark ink. I stamp the background and ink it up again to ensure the background has stamped completely. Next, I apply gold tinsel embossing powder from my stash and heat set it with my heat tool. I always preheat my heat tool so it's at its hottest when I bring it to the cardstock. This prevents it from warping, and that's especially important when heat embossing directly on the card base. I always love watching the powder set and seeing the results of it. I just love the sparkle and richness of this background. It makes for an elegant card that the recipient is sure to love. Now let's move on to the ink blending segment. I tape the card base on my grid mat with washi tape and secure the Happy Hex Mini Slim Stencil on top with more washi tape. I'll be ink blending with the lightest of the blues first and work my way down to the darkest. I start with Gumball ink and use a blender brush to add color to the top third of the card. Then I switch to Blueberry ink with a darker blender brush. I move to Blue Corn using the same blender brush and create a seamless transition between the blues. I go back to the top and add more Gumball to get a more even ombre effect between the blues. I love the part where I remove the stencil to reveal the results of the ink blending. I love this ombre effect with the little hexagons, and it looks so great with the gold embossed background. For my second card using the same gold embossed background, I've decided not to use the stencil, but instead ink blend the entire card base for a totally different look with the same background. In this case, I've heat embossed the background before ink blending, so the ink will pool around the edges of the hexagons and lines. If I ink blended the card base before heat embossing, the ink blending would look quite different. After the first pass across the card base, I went back and added more ink to blend the transitions, as well as to add more ink around the edges of the card base. Here I've die cut all of the hexagons I need, which include 3 sizes of hexagons in Gumball, Blueberry, Blue Corn, Sugar Cube, and Gold Glitter Cardstock. The largest hexagon comes from the center of the mini slim belly band, which was previously available in the Tailored Expressions web store. To get the completely die-cut hexagon, I cut it once using the belly band die as is, then I rotated it and die-cut it again. When I did this, I was left with 2 little points, which were easy enough to snip off with scissors. For my third card, I've cut a mini slim card base from Blue Corn cardstock, and I'll be adding these die-cut hexagons to it rather than using the background stamp or stencil. Now we can finish the cards with stamping and die-cut hexagons. Again, I'm using the original Misty stamping tool to do all my stamping, since it helps with both precision stamping and ombre stamping. Next, I stamp the hexagon frame from the Happy Hex Add-Ons stamp set using Blue Corn ink. I also stamped the What's Up sentiment in the same color. I stamped 3 hearts using the same colors that coordinate with their ink blended hexagons. For the second card, the background colors and the hexagon colors are the reverse of the first card. I glue white hexagons on the ink blended background. I use 3 striped patterns in different directions on each of the smaller hexagons. Again, I vary the shades of blue to follow the transitioning background. I did ombre stamp 2 of those striped patterns as well as the sentiment itself to add more visual interest as the eye follows those shapes down the card. For my third and final card, I'm randomly attaching the die-cut hexagons to create 3 groups of hexagons. By including the 4 colors outside of the card base, I ensure that the same 5 colors are included on all 3 cards featured in this video. Once those are attached to the card, I trim off the overhanging edges and place it on the Misty stamping tool. This time I'm using the star icon and stamping ombre stars on all 3 sugar cube hexagons. For the sentiment, I use a powder tool before stamping Miss You with sugar cube pigment ink and heat embossing it with white detail embossing powder. To finish, I use liquid glue and a jewel picker to embellish the card with gold drip drops. Once the glue dries, you won't see it around the edges of the drops. Here's a review of all 3 cards. I wanted to challenge myself to create something very different from the original kit release, and I also wanted to make some masculine cards. Even though these might be considered more masculine, they're perfect for anyone with a fondness for the color blue. I also wanted to make 3 cards that are very different from one another to show you how different the same product can look. If you missed out on the Happy Hex kit, now's the time to grab the individual items on your wish list. They're sure to provide endless hours of creativity. I hope you're inspired to create with them. Please let me know in the comments below which card design is your favorite. You can find all of these products in the Tailored Expressions web store at tailoredexpressions.com. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.